You're listening to Black Like Me with Dr. Alex G., a podcast that invites you to experience the world through the perspective of one black man, one conversation, one story, or even one rant at a time. Here's Dr. G.
Hey, hello everyone. You are listening to Black Like Me with Dr. Alex G. And I'm excited to be in the studios today with a good friend and with a colleague, Patrick Marcus Yates. Patrick works for a company called TDS in the Madison area. He's a manager of diversity and inclusion. He's got about 25 years in at that company. He's done a number of other things. He's a musician. He's a family man. He's been married for about 25 years.
Be
Patrick?
26.
26 years, 2 children, a grown son in college and working, and a daughter who's about to go to high school. She's also my goddaughter. So we're going to be just talking about some things that that we as African-American men face in the workforce, and just some of the uniqueness about our work. Not a real heavy-duty topic today, but one that I think is very important. But I want to do something today that I'm going to do regularly with many of my guests, and it's just called the Black Check-In. So I just got a couple of questions just to ask you, Patrick Marcus. Let's see, where do we want to start? Sunflower seeds or pumpkin seeds?
Definitely sunflower seeds.
Okay, all right. In the vegetable family, steamed okra or fried?
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to go with the fried version, even though it's unhealthy, but I absolutely love fried okra. All right.
Now and laters or gummy worms?
Now and laters. Grew up on those.
Okay. Hip hop or gangster rap?
Neither.
Yeah,
Neither.
Okay.
I'm a 90s R&B kind of guy.
Oh, okay. I got you. Jerry curl guy?
Not a Jerry curl
S
guy.
curl.
S curl. Neither.
Okay, because your mom wouldn't let you because you said it would mess up your good hair.
That would mess up my good hair.
Oh my God. My mom wouldn't let me get one either. Let me see. Mayonnaise or Miracle Whip?
Ooh, good question. I'm going to say Miracle Whip.
Really? Miracle Whip? Okay, I got you. That sounds really good. Okay, all right. I think we can go on now. You passed. So Patrick, it's really good to have you here. What I enjoy doing on my podcast is talk about what brothers and sisters are doing in the community, just how they go about living their lives, and its indirect impact on issues of diversity and inclusion.
Sure.
And so I just love talking to people about what they're doing. And so so I want to welcome you to the show. I appreciate your being my guest, and I appreciate TDS giving you time off work. They are giving you off. Maybe I shouldn't. You're out sick today?
No. Actually, with what we're doing now, this is a part of our work.
That's good, man. So let me just explain. Patrick and I met years ago. Our children went to school together. They're in a K-1 programming. So we go back, Patrick, about 18 years?
Yes.
Or so. And you served in so many capacities in our community. But I want to tune people into something that's really unique, that's happened in our relationship that I think is of interest to people. I happen to know the former CEO of your company. We work out together. And I asked him out for coffee one day because I wanted to bounce a question off of him. So I said to Dave, I've created this movement called Justified Anger. It's really an approach to interrupt racial disparities in our community, and I need someone to run the day-to-day operations of it. I don't have the resources to do it. I don't have the bandwidth to do it. Would you think about loaning Patrick Yates to us for a year to help us in this endeavor that would strengthen Madison? Because currently we all in the room know that we have the worst racial disparity for young people in the entire nation. When I told you I was going to say that to your boss, did you believe me?
I believed that you were going to say it. I just didn't believe it was going to happen. I didn't think it was possible. Number one, I knew my workload with what I was doing currently as a project manager. Emphasis that TDS has in the community is very important, and it's a focus for them. But oftentimes when new ideas or thoughts or innovative ideas are presented that could spark other potential initiatives or make movement in specific areas. When we're talking about race or ethnicity, sometimes those get downplayed. So I was a little bit taken back when this whole thing began to snowball.
You know, it's unfortunate. I mean, it's fortunate for Dave that he's retired, because I really respect Dave as a CEO, because I feel like what he did was extremely gutsy. But I read body language a lot. So we met at a restaurant near the TDS office, and I noticed that he didn't become defensive. You know, he listened to me, and he said, "A year, huh?" And just the way he tapped the papers and folded them showed me that he wasn't being dismissive. Because I thought it would have been too easy for a CEO to say, "Well, you know, Alex, there's a lot of initiatives. Patrick is one of our key project managers. He's been with us for about 20 years. We've got him on some pretty major things." The fact that he didn't say no, and just the way he tapped the papers, it seemed as if he was thinking, I thought this guy was going to hit me up for money, but instead he hit me up for the time of one of my staff members. His assistant called me back maybe a month or two later, to just say, we're still working on this. And then you called me up and said, guess what just happened to me today? So tell me a little bit about what happened. It took about a month and a half, but
yeah, it really did. But the communication I got was from our vice president of human resources saying, "Hey, Patrick, I need you to stop down to my office because I got a really great opportunity for you." And so that, as soon as I got that phone call, I was like, wait a second, this has legs here. And so as we began to talk, and she began to share what was the opportunity, and that, Dave was in support of moving forward with this type of partnership and this initiative, I began to really realize how important not only I was to the organization and that they wanted to invest in me, but how important the community was and that they do something innovative to invest in it. So I'm very appreciative of Dave and his efforts, of the organization and how it stepped up to the plate and invested in me and trusted me to do something, both for our company, but also for the community.
Yeah, that's powerful. You and I both are the beneficiaries of strong Black women who are moms who raised us and they pushed us.
Yes.
And my mom taught me someone's got to tell you no 3 times. Like, even when I go to a vending machine and I push something and and the Coke doesn't come out, I push it 2 more times. Because mom is just you determine that the answer is no, and don't let other people dissuade you. So I remember when the VP of HR got in touch with me. She said, "Well, Alex," and I appreciate her openness. She said, "Well, Alex, a full FTE, giving Patrick away for," because I was bold. I said, "We want you to pay him. We want you to give him the same vacation."
Yes, we got to pay him.
We got to pay him. I don't have the money to pay him. I want you to pay him, but I want you to let him come to my office. She said, "Well, we can't really do 100%. And I understood this. I mean, I wasn't unreasonable. I was just, demanding. And she said, "We can do 50%. And I said, "Well, that means he's like cutting off in the middle of the day. I really need him 60%. I need him at our office 3 days a week. I need him around Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. That's when I'm around. We can get stuff done." She said, "Well, let me go back and talk with Dave." And she came back and said, "Okay, we're going to do it." Then I went home and I started shaking. I said, "Crap. He's going to be here 3 days a week. This man's going to be here 60% of the time. This Forbes 500 company is going to allow one of their staff members to come and work for me, for the community." I just want to say I'm skeptical many times because unfortunately, even in this community, corporate philanthropy looks like buying a table at a banquet.
Yes.
Going and eating chicken and ignoring the people who are from the community at that dinner and just talking among your own peers, like, why do I have to be here at this conference? It's Black History Month, it's Latino History Month, it's Women's History Month. But he gave, he loaned an executive, he loaned an employee to this program. And I just got to tell you, I've been in community-based work for 30 years. I've heard about this. I've never seen anything like that. Just incredible kudos to TDS, but to Dave Whitwer and his leadership.
Yeah, I'm so appreciative for their work, their forthrightness, their innovativeness. And, we've heard this story before about how organizations are tired of actually having people just always ask them for resources that are monetary. And I believe, Dave and our whole TDS team in their philanthropic efforts saw this as something new that could help impact the real issue. And so I was truly excited. Still can't believe it. I'm still in shock that, I was actually doing this 3 days a week with Nehemiah and Justified Anger. And we still talk about that relationship.
Wow.
And how it's been an impact for the TDS community.
Man, so I think it's really great. So just sort of walk me through this. So you go from working at TDS every day for 20 plus years, all of a sudden you got this new office space. What was the vibe in the office? Like what were people saying that, wait, Patrick's gonna be out of the office for 3 days? And yeah, because I know there was probably a mixture of excitement, but also people just trying to figure out how does this happen to TDS? So let me ask you about what it meant to you professionally. Then after that, we're going to talk about what some of the implications of being in the community on a day in and day out basis meant to you personally. But professionally, what was that like when initially people found out, because you moved out of your current project management role and department into HR?
Correct. And that's what I was going to mention is, in addition to doing this outside the organization 3 days a week, I not only shifted departments and my focus, I shifted, areas. Like, this is not my traditional discipline. I've been in project management really for, 20, 25 years.
Right.
And then to shift and go in a different direction in a discipline that, wasn't my focus for a number of years, it was a little intimidating, but, I've been trained to, rise to the top.
Sure.
It's an opportunity. It's not an obstacle. It's an opportunity. So you go after that. And so we just took that type of initiative and said, you know what? This is an opportunity not only for me, but to help the community, to help TDS, and to do something different. So when this stall started kind of to shake out, I got a lot of support from people. Man, it was great to have that type of cheer section behind you, and made the transition easier.
So you went home from work on a Friday as a project manager, and you came back on Monday with 2 new jobs because in the HR department, is that where you were the manager or became the manager of diversity and inclusion?
That's correct.
So then you moved into a whole new area, HR, where you're managing the inclusion, the diversity inclusion efforts. You're then answering to who? The vice president of HR?
Yeah, vice president of human resources.
And she answers to
the president.
So you're like 2 steps away from so you go from the cubicles to being in meetings with vice presidents and the president.
In meetings, presenting, sharing our vision around diversity and inclusion, working with executive sponsors who are officers of the company, just a totally different shift.
See, that this is getting at what I really want our friends and our listeners to really get. When people work in the area of diversity and inclusion, as you and I do, they often think that the benefit is just to disenfranchise or at-risk people. But you started influencing the business and the bottom line of TDS. And so it wasn't just getting people in the door who shouldn't be hired or who weren't qualified, which is what people think our kind of work is.
Right.
You're meeting with the president because what you're doing is benefiting the bottom line of TDS.
Well, and it's important to realize that, yes, it's about trying to recruit new individuals that are diverse from different backgrounds in the company, but it's also about setting the right environment to begin with, to have that talent come in. And it's about also those individuals that are already there from varying backgrounds, helping to shape and mold and provide leadership development opportunities. So that's really been the core effort of what we tried to do. Yes, we want to recruit new folks in from the outside, but we need to plant and sow the seeds internally and develop our people.
So developing the retention of your current employees, because that's one of the best recruitment tools.
Best recruitment tool, and it has a definite impact on the bottom line. So much churn in an organization.
Definitely.
When you're able to reduce that and we tie that directly to our diversity and inclusion efforts, then we're really making a move in terms of having return on investment on diversity and inclusion.
See, that's another thing that people don't realize is that when companies have not invested in professionals who do the work that you do, they forego the opportunity to change the environment of the workplace so that you have less turnover, you have greater worker satisfaction, which means that you don't have that slippage and the loss of resources.
Exactly.
I realized I just jumped right into sort of the jargon of saying TDS, but can you just take a moment just to say what TDS, what business TDS is in and what,
Sure. So TDS Telecommunications, we are a really kind of a Fortune 1000, sometimes Fortune 500 broadband company, cable, phone, internet, television, and we are about 3,400 employees. We're spread out across 38 states. Been in business since 1969, and so our focus is, broadband. It used to be just telecommunication services, but the world of telecommunications has evolved so much, especially in my 25 years. It used to be people had 2 and 3 lines in the home, and now people have one line that, you can serve 1 gig of capacity to people's houses.
Crazy.
So that's our business. We're in the mode of being the telecommunications provider of choice, and excited about our future.
That's good. So thanks for giving that background for people, for people who are listening, so that they can understand that. And so, being in the community 60% of the time, I mean, you're very involved in in your local church, and so I know you see a part of the community that way. But being in the community 3 days a week, did you learn different things about Madison, about Black community leaders, or opportunities for partnerships? How did your perception of your own community change by being in it 3 full days a week?
It was really a welcome opportunity to see how much talent there was in our community.
So much.
How individuals are really working towards the same goal, but really need those opportunities to get their voices elevated, to get it heard. Just some very resilient people that want to do the right thing by their communities. And it was just heartwarming. It was eye-opening. It was challenging, sometimes disheartening, but I always believe that the good of the efforts of what people will do will outweigh the bad.
Now, before you were allowed to step into this role, you said you were at TDS. You now been there for about 25 years.
It'll be
right?
25 years
in March?
March 1st, Thursday.
Wow. And
I said the same thing.
So how many other Black people have worked in your department with you over the years?
I would say probably a rough number is probably about 4.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. I thought you were going to say 30 or 40. You said 4. So you were thinking of their names, their social security numbers, where they sat in the cubicle.
I'm trying to run through my head people in their positions and where they were. I would say solid 4.
Now, see, if knowing what I know about the resilience of Black folks who are outnumbered in the workplace, the fact that you could hang out the first decade, then the second decade would have said vice presidency to me, because I don't think people realize that, of course, you're a quintessential professional. You know how to go to work. You know how to get your work done. You're very structured. You're a project manager on and off the field. But I don't know if companies realize who they really have in someone like you, who comes in and day out. And again, this is a good environment because you stayed there.
Right.
But I don't think people understand the jokes, the innuendo, the comments, the things that you got to hear and not hear just to keep your sanity. It's not like someone's going to come and you just can't stay at your cubicle, you're being bullied in the workplace. I mean, that's not who you are. But I don't think employers realize who they have when they have people who stick it out in those environments that long. Is that true?
Yeah,
it takes a lot to stick it out.
It does. It's very weighty, and I think that's like you said, that's what people miss. Yes, it's a great in work environment. Yes, you can have great coworkers, but there's still, if you don't have people around you that look like you, if you don't see people in leadership that look like you, that you can aspire to have those positions, you really need to be able to see it to become it. And I think that's one thing I've continued to kind of push in our journey is, as we try and create this diversity and inclusion type atmosphere, we've really got to promote and help develop our diverse individuals inside the organization. We've got to recruit young talent and give them a way to connect internally and help develop them as well, so that we can reap the benefits down the road.
Definitely. Now, I'm going to give an example of what you just said about how we need more Black leadership to really help to mine that leadership. You've been at TDS for all those years, and again, I've lauded them and given kudos to them. But it was really when I, as a Black leader, looked at you and said, Patrick can manage justified anger for me. And so when I asked Dave about doing that, I think it made them look at who you were as well. Okay, here's an outsider wanting this guy to manage this brand new operation. It's in the media. Every time you turn around, someone's talking about it. So then after that, they created a new role for you. But I think sometimes you've got to have someone see your worth and value so that your own home network says, well, crap, who is this guy that's been hiding out in a cubicle?
Sure.
Can he become one of the faces of TDS? And in the community, particularly in communities of color, you have become that face. But they made that move when someone from the outside, a Black leader, called out your leadership.
Very true. And, I liken it to the movie Hidden Figures. And I'm asking, myself and I'm asking others, who are those hidden figures inside our organization? I'm just a young African-American guy that grew up in Freeport, Illinois, that had good, solid parents, had great role models, was involved in a religious community that supported me and built me up and provided me abilities and skills and tools to become the person that I am. That's what I brought with me, and I use at TDS. Everything that I've gained outside of that has definitely helped, but it was those core foundational things that I learned as a child in being a good man of character, having leadership and being accountable. All that stuff I learned foundationally as a young man. So that's what I'm using to help carry and move this diversity and inclusion effort forward.
And what we want businesses to know is that when you don't have people like you, Patrick, in key leaders of management and leadership, then they're not always able to spot those hidden figures, because you see talent and you want to be able to bring it up. And when you feel that there are upwardly mobile opportunities, it makes it easier to bring people in behind you.
When you asked me earlier about how do you stay at an organization for that long, and not having seen more people that look like you, that was part of my drive, is finding the next me. Not that I was anything special, but if I leave now, nothing's going to change. I have an opportunity, again, looking for an opportunity to invoke change and change the landscape of this organization for the future. And so that's what we're doing. We're starting small. We're taking it day by day, step by step, but we have support from top leadership down, which is so important when you're talking about doing an initiative like this. And I'm very grateful.
That's so cool. You are listening to this very exciting podcast. This is Black Like Me with Dr. Alex G. And my guest today is Patrick Marcus Yates, who is the Director of Diversity and Inclusion at TDS Telecom. And we're in here talking just about his role as a manager of diversity and inclusion and its impact on the entire company. Now, I just read something online about a month or so ago that TDS was just recognized by Forbes magazine as one of the top companies to work for that have made strides toward better diversity and inclusion. And I know they've never been in that category until you were in this role. So congratulations to TDS. But man, congratulations to you, because I know you spearheaded that movement. What does that feel like?
It feels amazing for the journey that we've been on. I mean, really the last 4 years with just trying to lay the foundation and plant the seeds. It's always wonderful to be recognized with an accolade like that for our efforts. One of 250 organizations to be recognized for diversity efforts. It feels great.
Incredible.
But what I keep reminding people is we're not there yet.
Okay.
We are coming out of the blocks. We've come out of the gate. This is not a sprint. It's a journey. And we've got a long way to go, but we believe that we're doing and saying the right things foundationally to reap the benefits later for our organization.
I think I'm going to use an Oscars analogy since it's Oscars season. When someone wins an award, particularly when it's sort of come out of left field and you didn't know that they can act, and their first movie they get the Oscar, you watch the next movie to see should they really have that award. You certainly give them credit for what they've done, but you watch the very next movie. So with this recognition, people are watching what the movie technically that TDS is going to be doing next. So what it does now is even more important than what it's done to get this recognition.
Absolutely. We have got to stay on this bandwagon. We've continued to, look in new areas of bringing folks into our organization. We've got to broaden our employee resource groups. We've got to continue to educate folks. We've got to go deeper in various communities and how we connect with them so that those communities reflect externally as well as internally of our organization. And so we're excited. We're not done yet. We're ready for the journey.
So you've been a part over the past year and a half of two organizations creating new roles for you. So what has that done for you personally? Just not even. Let's step away from both of the organizations, Justified Anger and TDS. How have you grown or changed in the past 2 years by having people come after you, create new roles for you, and see things in you that perhaps you didn't see in yourself or certainly didn't have an opportunity to step into?
It's been really wild. For the longest time, it's always nice to be affirmed about, your abilities, your skills, impacts that you can have in your position. But this really opened up just my horizons a little bit. that I have a lot of value. When other organizations pursue you outside of your current one, when individuals and leaders inside your current organizations are saying, hey, you know, I have a position over here. Are you interested? I've got more job opportunities in the last year than I had in probably the last 20 years. But it's really nice just to be lauded, to be appreciated. And I think that's something as organizations across our nation, specifically here in Madison, we have to do for people of color. We have got to affirm their abilities, reinforce them, create these leadership development tracks and opportunities for them so that as people begin to retire, they have shifts and moves, that people of color can step into those roles and feel affirmed that they can do the job.
Definitely. For people who are listening to us, you work for companies or you know people who run companies or who may be in key positions. You know, in some ways, Patrick Yates was in sheer obscurity. I mean, tough worker, helping to, you know, create great networks. And as a project manager, you probably had like a 5-state region or 9-state region. Back in the day?
We were in Illinois, California, Colorado, Minnesota, Michigan.
And I remember you traveling to those places overseeing projects.
We had some travel included in that.
And so you have this opportunity to step up. There's some leadership development opportunity. You come to the community and learn a lot. You make networks. I mean, you've got TDS partnering with a young black woman who owns a coding company. You developed that partnership. You've got TDS thinking about partnerships and internships with people of color. You're representing TDS at organizations that they've never been a part of, networking them with job placement opportunities. So all of these things have happened. And I was at an event where your alma mater, Herzing College, you know, named you into its Hall of Fame. Am I saying the recognition correctly?
Correct. Herzing Hall of Fame.
So this is for their distinguished alums who have done meaningful things in the community. And again, I'm not belittling the work that you've done, but again, you're in obscurity in a cubicle. You come out to the community for 16 months, and now you're up on a wall where you will be recognized along other key graduates from that school from here on because of your work in the community. That's amazing, and you've always had that potential, but the opportunity allowed you to show it.
That's it. It's about opportunity, and I feel, you know, again, I'm no one special. I just know that the skills that were invested in me, I wasn't going to let them fall away and not do anything with them. And I'm sure that there's many other individuals out there that may be in the similar situation that if given the right opportunity, they can excel too.
Yes.
And I'm not done yet.
Definitely. You better not be.
I've got more places to grow into and showcase my talents and abilities. And so I welcome the challenge.
Definitely. You know, Patrick, because of your new role of the manager of diversity and inclusion, you know, you're talking to various other departments around TDS because HR typically is very central to an organization.
Right.
Then other departments plug into it. So I'm sure people are trying to glean from your wisdom, and you've had enough conversations out in the community with employers to sort of give them some pointers. People are worrying about where to post their job openings. That's their approach to diversity. Your approach is completely different. TDS let you go out to the community. So what would you say to any business owners or executives or VP level folks in companies who have never considered finding a real key employee and perhaps creating a loan executive program with a real grassroots project that's really getting some traction? What would you say to those executives who aren't sure how that benefits the company when they come back?
I think first and foremost, we have to get out of the routine of doing the same things we've always done. Absolutely, you're going to do your college and career fairs, but you've got to find new and inventive ways to connect with the community and find those recruitment channels. We can't rest on our laurels and just continue to cast our net in the same locations. Right. We have got to find new opportunities and new partnerships to help draw diverse talent in and be very intentional about it. And I think that word intentional is very key, is that you've got to be intentional about where you're going, what you're looking for, and what you hope to draw.
So do you think being out in the community, being the director of operations for Justified Anger for 14 months, gave you extra training or built extra capacity in you to do the work you're doing at TDS now?
Absolutely. I mean, some of the same things that we're doing in TDS now, is a mirror replication of what we were doing at JA when we talk about the tables that we were organizing around specific areas. Our employee resource groups are just tables that are geared towards employees.
That's cool.
And we're trying to mobilize people in JA. We're trying to mobilize people inside of TDS Telecom around diversity and inclusion. We're trying to move and advocate by using the broader population of Madison for JA and creating allies and advocates. We're doing the exact same thing on the inside of TDS, mobilizing the broader demographic to support our diverse and inclusive work culture.
Sure. And again, when we talk about JA, we're talking about Justified Anger. It's a movement in Dane County, Wisconsin, to eliminate racial disparities, because we're known for being the community that has the worst racial disparities between black and white families in the nation, particularly black and white children. And so it's a movement to that involves a systemic approach to changing racism. So we're training and developing emerging black leaders, but we also are developing white allies, and so that we can help them partner with us in moving ahead. In fact, our U.S. Black History course is it's a hit. You helped me to design that. You were there when we launched the first class. We're on our third cohort. So so what we've done is we decided that in the work of racial healing and reconciliation, our non-black partners, but particularly our white partners, have got to do some of their own work. And that work is really understanding to what extent has racism shaped the world around them and benefited them personally. And so we bring in faculty from the University of Wisconsin. And our first year, Patrick, we had 150 people. Mm-hmm. We're doing 247 now, I think we have registered. And these are individuals who go through it's 9 weeks now, go through a 9-week course on U.S. Black history. And but then we talk about the next steps they take to help to bring about change in their parent-teacher organizations, their schools, faith communities, libraries, boards, you name it. Exactly. We want them to have this ripple effect. So now we have 640 non-black allies who've gone through this intensive training, and that's just phase one. We still call them would-be allies, but it's part of mobilizing people so that we work collectively to bring about a change in this community, because one community, one organization cannot possibly address the ugly racial disparity that we have in this community.
And it's the exact same thing we're trying to do. It's like,
that's really cool.
People who are a part of the JA history class and the movement and have been involved and trained and educated in that capacity, they're affecting change where they are. We're saying the exact same thing when we're talking about diversity and inclusion as we're bringing on allies and advocates. Whatever department you're in, whatever city and state you're in, you affect change there and support your diverse and inclusionary personnel.
Definitely. And again, I'm bringing this back full circle. The work that you do helps the overall organization to grow. I keep reminding people that I'm a leader and I'm black, but I'm not a black leader. My degree is not in transformational leadership for black people. It's in transformational leadership. So we work specifically in a particular area, but because it benefits the entire whole. So because I want to see Wisconsin and Dane County and Madison better, I want to see the country better, I'm focusing on strengthening African Americans, but also training, developing, and mobilizing non-black allies who help in that work as well. But man, I appreciate TDS for the investment they made in you, but I hope they're listening, and I hope they know who you are, and I hope that they treat you like the asset that you are, because when you have someone with your experience and work ethic, you are definitely marketable. And that's not hint for anything. You're not about to leave TDS, so I don't want them to pull you to the side and say, Patrick, is there something you're not telling us? I'm just saying I know talent when I see it, and people don't need to be comfortable with brothers like you. They need to understand what and who they have, and they need to make sure that they're treating you right, because this community is hungry for that kind of leadership. Anything else? Any parting things you want to say about you and your work, or anything about
Sure.
any of that before we finish?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on.
Gladly.
Appreciate the partnership that TDS created with Nehemiah and Justified Anger. I think we want to continue that relationship in some form,
I
and
want to
whatever it
also.
looks like. Appreciate your forthrightness and boldness, and even stepping up and asking me to come over and spend a little time to help support the mission of Justified Anger in the community here in Madison. And always, for anyone that is listening, if you're looking for a place of employment, if you're looking for a job and resources to support you, please consider TDS Telecom. It really is a great place to work. We would love to have you come on board and be a part of our team and help us continue this mission around diversity and inclusion.
That's great. Well, hey, I'm Alex G, and thank you. You've been listening to Black Like Me with Dr. Alex G. My guest has been Patrick Marcus Yates. We've had an exciting discussion about the role of diversity and inclusion in our country, in our businesses, in our faith communities, and its impact upon the greater whole. So it's been good to be with you, and thank you again for listening.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast. You can find out more about Dr. Alex G's amazing work at www.alexg.com. Black Like Me is sponsored by the generosity of the Human Family Unity Foundation.